should we get started?
It's your show.
I know more people will be trickling in. We're up to 19 now, so why don't we, I'm just going to let everybody know we're recording this session, so if there's people who want to catch it on the replay. So I've started recording. And I'm going to, just some simple housekeeping rules. So first of all, welcome to the June meeting of KWCREI, Kitchener-Waterloo Cambridge Real Estate Investors Group. We are currently, as you know, on COVID, having webinars. We usually have live meetings at the Cambridge Hotel and Conference Center, usually on the last Wednesday of every month. But with the lockdown restrictions extending now into the end of June, that is not going to happen for a little while longer yet. So the beauty of technology is enabling us to have a interactive session. So I am so thrilled to have our guest here tonight, Alfonso Cuadra. He and I go back a few years. We have known one another since probably, 2017? And I am a former workshop consultant for Keyspire. And so that's how Alfonso and I met. Alfonso is one of the key speakers. There were a 3-day workshop. And so that's how we first came to know one another. But since that time, I absolutely adore this man. He has high energy. He is wonderfully diverse in his experience. He's a true entrepreneur and a gentle man. He is in the true essence of that word, a gentleman. So I'm so pleased that he accepted the invitation to come and speak here tonight. And it's going to be a very informal evening. It's an interview, but I really would like to have everyone hear about who he is, where he came from, his challenges that I don't want to give it away, but he has an amazing story of who he is if you don't know Alfonso. And but he has accomplished so much and continues to do so much. So I have prepared some questions that I'd like to ask him. What I'd like to do, though, is I'm going to ask everybody to mute and also to turn off your videos, just so it's a little bit less distracting for us as speakers. And thank you. And there will be an opportunity for live questions. So as he's speaking, or if there's something that comes up, please, I will monitor the chat box. And as there's an appropriate moment or break in the conversation, I will ask Alfonso your questions. But I will open it up to general questions in the last 10-15 minutes of this evening's conversation. So don't feel that you won't be able to ask him a question directly. So, and with that, I had some notes here. I just wanted to make sure I referred to. But welcome, Alfonso. So I'm so pleased you've been able to join us tonight.
Wow, thank you, Anna. And a gentleman. I love that.
That wasn't rehearsed. It just came.
Yeah, no, but
he is the true essence of a gentleman. So.
Yeah, well, you know what? I love people. You know that. I love people, and I just genuinely want the best, and I believe in everyone. And I'm glad you took that away.
I know what I wanted to do. You had also provided me with a little bit of information about.
Okay, sure.
Maybe you say it better. You've done it. You've lived it. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, well, I won't go too much into this into the story. I'll give you the synopsis. Okay. Born in Central America, war-torn country. I was actually in 2 wars. Immigrated to Canada as a refugee from El Salvador, and had trouble integrating into the schools, and ended up dropping out of high school at 15. Ended up leaving home as well, homeless. Had really dark moments, just like everybody else. We've all had some dark moments in our lives. Panhandling for change, just really dark, tough times in my life at 15 years old, if you can imagine. And I had a life-changing moment. It was the day that my daughter was born, the day I became a father at 17 years old. I decided to get my stuff. I don't know if we can curse on here, I'm not sure. But I got my stuff together. And went back to school, started a business at 17 years old. Before I was 20, that business was a multi-million-dollar business. Took that business across Canada. Almost lost everything because I was very much a consumer-minded individual. I had no prior financial education. So all the money that I was making, I was pretty much buying stuff, and almost went bankrupt before the age of 24. And could have lost everything until I realized, that I needed to become an investor. And I wanted to create multiple streams of income. And I wanted to have one of these streams to be completely indestructible. And that's why I chose real estate so long ago. And specifically, multifamily apartment buildings. I've become the apartment building whisperer across across Canada. I own hundreds of units all across Canada, many different provinces across Canada. And my goal is to get to 7,500 doors within the next 5 years, and within the next 10 years, 75,000. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I own 11 companies, and the Quadra group of companies, and I enjoy people. I speak, I train. I started a youth foundation to teach these types of mindset, this ideology to young people, financial literacy, investing, the differences between consumer mindset, investor mindset, and it's an event-based foundation and organization where we go around North America training young people on success.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's phenomenal.
Was that short enough?
That's short, yes. That's amazing. I was going to ask you, what do you do in your spare time, if you have any spare time?
Oh, my spare time is very precious to me. I spend my time with my family.
Tell us a bit about your family. You've got two lovely daughters.
Two beautiful,
lovely wife.
Yeah, lovely wife, two beautiful daughters, two step kids, if you will, and I love spending time with them. That's why I do it, to create the freedom to spend time with them.
And your mom, of course, she's a big influence in your life.
My mom is one of my biggest mentors in my life. And she went through a tough time. I talked a little bit about it, but yeah, we were in a war-torn country, right? So, and now more than ever.
Yes, no, that's fantastic. So you were mentioning that you started. How long ago did you start investing in real estate? I know it was
about
big decision.
21 years ago.
21 years ago. And what did your portfolio look like when you first started?
It was bad. Well, just like I think like a lot of people were and I always get this question, and like someone says to me, you know what, I got Alfonso, you know what to do with money. Like I got $10,000 here. Like where should I put it? What's the neighborhood, right? Like people say, what's that? Give me the magic pill. Everybody's looking for the magic pill, and I always tell people, listen, the very first thing that you have to do is educate yourself. You need to know and learn to be able to identify a deal. If not, you're going to get into the wrong deals. And so you're going to wish you would have taken that $10,000 and invested it back into yourself. And so that's where I start with anybody. I didn't have much education when I first started in investing, especially financial education. So I did the what everybody else does, is buy the onesie, I bought a single family house, and fortunately, I put a unit in the basement, but the problem with that single family house, I have to live somewhere, and there's just not enough cash flow, right? If you do the math, that single door, the two doors, they have just too many leaks. There's too many the expenses don't justify. You can't justify all the expenses with the type of income, especially if you're living in one of the units.
Right.
And so, at the very beginning, I met a mentor, and that's what I suggest everybody. Reach out to someone that knows what they're doing, right? And I was just relentless, and I was willing to invest whatever I had to invest into that person teaching me, and quickly realized that I was doing everything wrong. I sold that single family house, and I started investing in multifamily. And so at the very beginning, I was doing a lot of flip to yourselves. Like, so for example, my very first deal was a duplex that I was able to convert into a triplex. Within that same month, I was able to, refi the property, pull the money out, and I did that about 10 times that year. And I said to myself, I think we're onto something. And so I just kept repeating, and just getting bigger in units.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fantastic. And so, what kinds of challenges did you face initially, and how did you overcome those? Or maybe you continue to face some challenges.
You know what? The biggest challenge is, I would say, for most investors is, you know, if I could go back and do it again, okay, let's start there. If I could go back and do it again, I would have leveled up a lot faster and sooner, right? Because pretty much everything that I bought that first year, at some point I had to sell because it no longer made sense because it was just too small for me, right? The problem is we tend to operate based on where we are. We don't operate based on where we're going. And so, once you have real clear goals, then you can now design the entire path. Most people just start in whatever comes their way, right? And so for me, I used to look at, like, I remember I used to look at 10-unit buildings. I was like, oh my God, a 10-unit building, that's like, whoa, that must be a lot of work. But the second I bought my 10-unit building, my first 10-unit building, I said, wait a minute, this is less work than the 3-unit or the 4-unit. And then, the first time I bought the 20-unit, I said, well, this is less work than the 10-unit. And then I bought a 36, and then and so on and so on. So I guess the biggest hurdle is getting outside of your mind, your head. Like most of the time we kind of operate based on our current circumstances, our current credit, what we can afford, the money we have, what we're doing, not really thinking bigger, right? And so thinking big is free. It doesn't cost you anything. And so I would say, the best advice is to just level up from the beginning.
Go big or go home, right?
Go big or go home, right? Go big or go home.
Yeah.
Because you're going to end up having to go back and selling a lot of these things. And so it's like you almost like you're losing time, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, that's an interesting observation that you made. And now you've graduated to bigger and larger properties, and your vision longer term is incredible. How many? Where are your properties right now? Are they primarily Canada, Ontario?
Yes. So I operate mostly in 3 regions: out west, Saskatchewan, Alberta. I'm looking at things right now in Alberta as well. Saskatchewan, love Saskatchewan, and Ontario, and then out east. Right, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, those areas. I basically look for a lower cost per unit, affordable rents, secondary markets, apartment buildings. Anywhere between 20 to 50 units, and I like it. It's easier to manage. I mean, when you're buying a 20-unit building, it's just everything becomes easier. There's enough cash flow in the building to be able to hire a maintenance person, a property manager. Things just become easier when you're fixing. Instead of fixing 36 roofs, well, I'm going to be fixing one roof on a 36-unit building. When people move out of my 36-unit building, well, that's a non-event for me. If you're sitting there with a single or a duplex, well, you either lost 100% of your revenue or 50% of your revenue. Either way, you may not be sleeping that night, right? So I don't. I like things to be, really. I like a systematic approach to real estate investing. I kind of stick to one model, and in the past, people are like, get into some hotels. I was like, no, it sounds exciting, right? or get into some industrial buildings. It's not really that exciting, but they're like, oh, the triple net rents, and okay, some retail, commercial plazas. I mean, I've seen it all. I've never really, kind of diverse in that way, really. I just kind of stick to the apartment building. People need to live somewhere, affordable rents. I don't get into luxury properties. And, having gone through this, this whole COVID situation that we're in right now, it really made me realize how safe I actually was in my investing, and how the investments that I pursued were pretty much Armageddon proof. Now I know. I used to say Armageddon proof, and I didn't know, but we're knock on wood, but we are on solid ground, and some of our collections. I think this month were better than before COVID, right? Because we're just so on it, right? And it's just been a blessing, and it's just kind of like the model that I follow.
Well, and there's a couple, schools of thought that when you invest in a formula or a pattern that is successful, you rinse and repeat. You just keep the same process going because it works really well for you. And it's been proven time and time again that multifamily investments are pretty much recession-proof when it comes to this environment that we're in. So, I mean, you segued nicely. One of my questions I was going to ask you about was COVID. And how have you talked about your goals and your objectives, and have those changed at all because of COVID? Are you thinking about doing things a little slightly differently because of it?
Yeah. So, first of all, let's start. What is a good goal? A good goal should excite you, but also scare you at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when I used to say, in the next 5 years, I want to reach to 7,500 doors. I used to say I was a little bit scared behind it, so it was also excited. It was exciting to even say that, for those words to even come out of my mouth. But I wasn't sure how I was going to get there. But first of all, March 15th happened, and as you know, March 15th, we all were, probably you were probably the same as me. We're just like, oh my God, what will happen? Right. And so I went right into action. Right, I knew that life was not going to be the same ever again. Even back in March 15th, I said, this is because I've been through 9/11, I've been through 2008 as an investor, as a business owner, and so I knew I had to act quickly. First of all, I felt the pressure. I have investors that I have to worry about. I have employees. I have tenants. I have lenders. There's a lot of people that depend on my decisions, right? So I have like a very. It's a small ecosystem, but I don't take that for granted. And I really take that responsibility seriously. And I went right to work. We started sending letters, and we started communicating with our tenants. And the problem was we were challenged with the miscommunication from the leaders, where they were saying that don't worry, your landlords are getting deferrals. We didn't take one deferral. We have no deferrals whatsoever. And so we just needed to communicate with our tenants and let them know that, some of this information applies, but not to us, right? And these are the circumstances. And if you're having issues, call us. Some people called us and we helped them through. You still have to be sympathetic to the situation. And I'm willing to work with you, help you. One guy said, well, I was on the phone with EI for 8 hours. Well, do you have anything else? Do you have anything better to do, right? What else are you going to be doing, right? Yeah. And, I said, your job is to be on hold with EI for 20 hours if you have to, right? I mean, this is what the circumstances are. And so, we help people, we give them the links and everything. And so we got through April 1st, right? And April 1st, we were I think 97% collected across Canada. And we were like,
fantastic.
We were like, Because April 1st for us was just like Judgment Day. We just didn't know what was going to happen, right? And we needed to take control because we heard some horror stories of some property owners having all the tenants turn against them, and just kind of having this tenant strike or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, as you know, I love people and I'm willing to work with people, and I'm willing to work with whatever issues you got going on. But at the end of the day, rent is due. Right? And it's going to be due next month, and it's going to be due next month. Even though we can't do anything about it today, a lease is a legal binding contract. I don't care what anybody says. I can't go to the grocery store and start grabbing the food off the shelves just because there's a pandemic. I mean, at some point, like we live in a law-abiding country, and so like that's a legal contract, and you have to honor it. And so you don't want to get too far behind. And so after we were, April 1st kind of was behind us, I kind of took a deep breath and I said, now I know exactly how I'm going to get to the 7,500. And so my activity has actually increased. And, just this month, we're buying four properties just this month.
Wow.
And what I love about it is that everybody is on the same page, right? My best friend right now is the news that's scaring a lot of property owners, and no one knows what's going to happen. Is there going to be hyperinflation, and all these things are really they're really speculation. Everything that anybody says right now is speculation because at the end of the day, nobody really knows. But what I know is that by the time this entire cycle is done, I'll be plus 5,000 units.
Wow, that's fantastic. I just wanted to share, there's been a couple of comments coming up here, if this is okay, Alfonso, real quickly.
Sure.
Angela Coangelo says, Alfonso, your story and business success are an inspiration. It's good to see you. And Bossy from Montreal says, Alfonso, I'm a small-time private lender. How can I find out more about your investments and whether I can get on board? So I thought that might be something, if you were going to touch on that.
Yeah.
Is this a good spot for that, or if you wanted to chat?
Well,
because one of the questions I also wanted to ask you, too, is when you're looking, you talk about 4 properties this month, what are your criteria for looking for and determining what's a good deal, what's a good opportunity?
Okay, so where did I get my criteria is the question. Like, how did I come up with this formula? So, I was sharing with you before, in the 90s I started my business and I was very successful right out of the gate. And the problem was I was a spender, right? I was a consumer, but jewelry, cars. I mean, I was 21 years old. Let's I mean,
lots of bling.
I mean, you had to go through it. I had to pay somewhere, right? But what I realized after 9/11 is that, and because 9/11 was just like a mini contraction, right? And what 9/11, what that mini contraction, what it showed me is that I was very vulnerable, right? Even though I was making all this money, it could be taken away in an instant, right? So when the business is good when it's good, and then when it's bad, it's really bad. And so this is when I looked for real estate, but I didn't really know what I was looking for. Now comes 2008. And I remember 2008, and everything that's happening in 2000, that happened in 2008 is happening right now. If I'll invite everyone here to go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. 2 months ago, I was sharing kind of my ideas on what was going to happen. And I have a few different videos about the impact on the market, and pretty much everything that I've said is happening, right? And so, in 2008, the money just got tight, so tight. Nobody wanted to lend. There was no lenders, and I'm talking specifically about apartment buildings. And the only type of lenders that were available were CMHC insured mortgages, right? These are the only money that was available. And so The problem why people don't do that is because their underwriting is very strict, right? They have a certain amount that they allocate for repairs and maintenance. They need to have proper vacancy allowances and all of this. And so usually when people go buy a property, they get they get a shock when they realize that CMHC will value that property less than what they're buying it for. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the underwriters, it's the way they underwrite the property. So I said, isn't that interesting, right? The way they underwrite their property, and I started asking questions back then, right? And they want to be safe, right? And so I said, well, if I want to, buy properties and get CMHC to insure my properties, which this is what it's essentially, if you're buying apartment buildings, that's what you want to do. You're going to eventually, whether at the beginning or at some point in time, you'd want to have a CMHC insured mortgage on it, where they allow you to they will fund up to 85% of that deal. So you want that, and it's the best interest rates in the country for commercial lending. I just did a deal a month ago at 2%, 2% for a 21 unit building. I mean, you can't get any better than that, right? And here's the sexy part: 40-year AM. Tell me who else would do 40-year AM, right? And so this product is there available for investors. Now, what I saw is, wow, that's the only people that are willing to lend money right now in 2008. Well, I'm just going to follow their formula. And I'm going to buy properties that they would like, that the underwriters would like. And so, for example, they don't like the choppy properties. They like purpose-built, right? They don't like retail. They don't like all these, buildings with retail at the bottom. They like multifamily, they like 2 bedrooms. They like, good areas, up and coming areas. They'll do the secondary areas, but they need to have there needs to be some sort of a future to it. And they'll underwrite it with repairs and maintenance. They'll underwrite it with the vacancies and property management and all that. And so that's just kind of that's my criteria. And it all came from 2008. And anytime I step into a negotiation, I know that, if I'm buying apartment buildings, I'm dealing with someone that understands that type of underwriting on the other side. I'm talking about the seller. And so it's easy to negotiate with someone that understands that it doesn't matter what you are wanting for your property. CMHC is going to come in here, and it's not going to be $2 million. They're going to say 1.8, right? So instead of going back and forth, why don't we just make this quicker, and let's just